today we are in conversation with Yash. Hi, Yash. He is the CEO of the fund management business at Welspun One. Welspun One delivers large format institutional grade one warehousing and industrial parks across India. And Yash has been in the forefront of developing the fund management business. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Pallabi.
My first question for you. In India, this is the maiden warehousing and logistics fund. Hasn't been done before. So how did you go about this?
Sure. Pallabi, we kind of set up this business in 2019. And, by then, warehousing was already a pretty hot space globally, seeing a lot of interest from institutional investors. And even in India, I think, from 2016 or 2017, up to 2019, we had seen maybe $5 or $6 billion of commitments from institutional real estate investors to warehousing platforms in India. And when we kind of started thinking about this business, we noticed that there was a clear gap where there was really no option for domestic investors to participate in this story in a format which was, clean, transparent, institutional, and regulated. And we kind of saw this as an opportunity which we were able to leverage and create a new product, which, I think in hindsight has worked quite well for us.
So, yes, your journey has started with the flagship Welspun Fund 1. And now, we have declared the final close of Welspun Fund 2 with some remarkable numbers out there. And there has also been a fair amount of regulatory changes that Fund 1 has witnessed and thereafter Fund 2 witnessed. So what has been the journey from Fund 1 to Fund 2? And how have things changed from Fund 1 to Fund 2?
First, on the regulatory side, while there have been a lot of changes, I think if we want this sector to grow and achieve its full potential, some of these changes are necessary. So SEBI ultimately has the right intent, it's moving in the right direction, and that's a good thing. So I think with that said, if I kind of look at the journey from Fund 1 to sort of where we are now at with Fund 2, you guys have been an important part of that journey right from the time we set up the first fund. And Fund 1 was, where we kind of tested the product, a small raise of 500 crores, which we did in 2021. We were quickly able to deploy that fund and create some good track record. We've also been able to exit our first investment out of Fund 1 and create a good exit track record. And I think on the back of this, we've been able to scale up our Fund 2 raise, which was more ambitious, where we looked at 1,000 crore plus 1,000 crore green shoe. I think what we did differently in Fund 2 is a very large focus on governance, transparency, and reporting.
From an investor perspective also, that's great news. When we go and look deeper into how the warehousing and logistics space is evolving, how, many people are coming into the fray. From your perspective, what have been the top key challenges that you've come across? From Fund 1 to Fund 2?
Land acquisition continues to be the single largest challenge, for us and some of our peers operating in the segment. And land prices in India do tend to kind of run ahead of themselves. This is compounded by the fact that we're also in a part of the cycle where rental growth has underperformed over the last 1 or 2 years, primarily on the fact that e-commerce demand during that time has been slow. That being said, this is something which we see reversing in the near term. So things should pick up by the end of this year or early next year. In the meantime, however, what we're doing to address this challenge is we're being extremely cautious about the deals we are looking at. And we are also looking at some structures where we find there is a little bit of an arbitrage. And we're also innovating across the value chain, where we're looking at newer segments like in-city warehousing and port or airport-based logistics. And the general thesis here is that these segments have little to no existing supply on the one hand. On the other hand, there is a lot of demand and growth which we are seeing on this side due to e-commerce consumption as well as overall consumption growth, which effectively makes for excellent demand-supply dynamic from our perspective, which we think has the potential to create outsized returns for us.
So I think that is true innovation at some level, because between Fund 1 and Fund 2 and then leading up to other funds that will be coming out of your stables, we always have to think ahead and look at, how the market is evolving. I think my next question is, what is to be expected coming into the next 5 years?
Yeah, so Pallabi, overall, if you kind of look at this story, directionally, we're very clear that this is a multi-decadal growth story which we're seeing for warehousing, and we continue to kind of double down on this space and focus on that. And just to give you an example, if you kind of look at India's overall warehousing stock today, it's a little under 300 million square feet. And you will find that if you look at, maybe one city in the US, let's say Boston, Boston has approximately the same amount of warehousing stock. Boston, of course, has a population of maybe 5 or 6 million people versus the 1.4 billion people we have in India, right? So look, I'm not trying to suggest that India becomes, equal to US consumption levels anytime soon. But the point I'm trying to make is that the gap is just so large that even if we close, a small percentage of that, I mean, that gives us enough runway for the growth for many, many years. I also compare warehousing to what we've already seen in office. And if you look at the growth trajectory which we've seen in office, maybe starting from 2005 over the last 20 or so years, we have seen about 7 or 800 million square feet of institutional office stock which was created over that period of time, built by developers, changed hands with funds buying into these portfolios. And a lot of these portfolios have now kind of ended up in REITs. And we think warehousing will kind of follow the same trajectory, but perhaps in half the time. Already we've kind of seen the first InvIT in the space, and I think this will only continue to pick up more traction over the next couple of years.
So all the best to you, and thank you so very much for joining in to Tune In.
Thank you, Pallabi. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you.